and welcome to the Web Heads discussion panel here. And got a few more people coming in. We're going to talk about leads. That's something that all businesses need. We all need customers. We need to get those customers, and we got to do it somehow. And we call that generating leads. So we're going to be talking about different ways to generate leads, different ways to identify customers. How do we know who we should even target, and a lot of different subjects we're going to talk about. You can tell the web heads, they all have a background just like what I have here. We all have our names on there, real easy to remember. And this is not a networking event. This is a discussion panel. So if you have questions, that's what is going to be really cool tonight is if you have questions, feel free to raise your regular hand or your virtual hand. You can do that down at the bottom in case you're not sure how to do that. There should be a button at the bottom that says reactions. You're able to raise your hand from right there. Very easy. Nothing to it. You can also ask in the chat. We'll be monitoring the chat. We'd be glad to answer your questions from there as well. And with that, I think that we are going to get started. My name is Tom Bartholomew, as you can see right here. And I'm going to be your host this evening. And I've got some great panelists here with me. And what I'd like to do is have them just real quick introduce themselves, where they're from, what they do. Actually, I'll go first, kind of give an example. Tom Bartholomew, I'm from northern Michigan, the Lower Peninsula. And it's been beautiful. Yesterday it was 65 degrees. Today it was 18 degrees. You know you're in Michigan when that happens. So anyways, I run a digital agency and full service, and my customer are roofing contractors, local service providers. And we are glad to have you here today. And I'm going to pass it off. How about Jim, if you'd like to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Jim Hale. I live in Johnson City, Tennessee, in the Appalachian Mountains. I work with a company called GetGeofencing.com, and we are a global provider of geofencing technology and its applications in marketing and research. Happy to have everyone here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jim. Glad to have you here. And up next, we have Robert Coxe. Robert, if you'd like to go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Robert Coxe. I'm here in Northwest Pennsylvania. And like Tom, we started out at 65 this morning, and we're now down to 29. But I have Silphium Design, and I do websites for environmental conservation organizations and specialize in blogging and accessibility of websites.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Glad to have you here, Robert, as always. And next, Josh Collier, if you could go ahead and come off of mute and tell us about yourself. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Josh Collier. I'm from Flagstaff, Arizona. I have J&M Web Creations is my company. Do a lot of WordPress websites, but I also do automation type stuff, some of the more technical stuff like website hosting, website maintenance, fixing sites, stuff like that.
Awesome. So between us, we have a lot of knowledge, and we are here to share that with you. So again, if you have questions, feel free to raise your virtual hand, your regular hand. We should probably be able to see it. I can see everybody here. Or put it in the chat. You can ask in between while we're going through things or at the end. Either way, we would love to have your questions. And with that, we'll start off. Does anybody have a question to start? You came here for a reason. You thought, I want to go to this one on Alignable because I want to learn about, what is that? Who would like to raise their hand first? And if we don't get anybody, then I do have some questions that we can get started with, but we would love to get an audience question to start. No problem. I've got a great question, and I'm going to leave this up to whichever webhead would like to answer first. Is when we're in business, when we do marketing, we need to target someone, right? We need to target someone. And given the vastness of the internet, targeting the right audience can be like finding a needle in a haystack, right? Which is really hard to do. So defining that audience, what strategies do you recommend for pinpointing and engaging your ideal customer online? Who would like to start that off?
You're talking to us
Yes, to
webheads,
the webheads. This is the
to the
question that
webheads.
we're
Okay.
supposed to answer. Yes, sorry.
Okay. Okay. I'll jump in here. What I do with geofencing technology is working with clients to do just that, target people. Um, and we do it in mainly three ways. The first is where people go. That's always a good way. And example would be we work for an agency that one of our clients or their clients, so by proxy, our client is Rolex watches. They are a luxury watchmaker. And so, but we work with them to connect them to people that are VIPs and the high rollers, shall we say, that attend PGA Tour golf events. So we're geofencing the VIP areas at like Augusta National for the Masters and that sort of thing. And the reason Rolex does that, they obviously are not in the golf business. They do not make golf clubs or golf balls or anything has to do with golf, but they're there because that's where their customers are. And so you will not find a professional golf event anywhere in the world that Rolex is not only on the ground, but will also be geofencing to connect to the target audience that they want. So they will be geofencing golf, high-end boat shows, high-end car shows, that sort of thing. Where their target audience goes. So one part of marketing is to take a step back and think, okay, where do my people go? So and then you go where they go. So that's my answer, Tom.
Well, that's a great answer. Of course, we definitely want to be where our customers are. And somebody in the chat asked about geofencing and kind of with a few question marks. Could you give us a really short version of what geofencing is for those of us that don't know?
Okay. Oh boy, a short version of geofencing. Geofencing is it's a virtual boundary around a location. In this case, it could be a sporting event, a trade show, a conference, any location. And what our technology looks for inside that location is GPS locator codes and phones. All of our phones have a unique GPS locator code. And so when you go in there with your GPS locator code turned on, then our technology recognizes that code, and then we can start sending our clients advertising messages in app, in browser, and through social media to the people inside that audience. So an example would be we have clients in the ladies fashion and makeup and beauty space that want to reach people that go to Taylor Swift concerts. So we geofence our concert locations. And so when you go in there to the concert, you're a Swiftie, and you go in there to the concert, then we recognize your phone and we send our clients advertising messages to that targeted audience.
So very hyper targeted advertising for right in a specific location, usually for events, like you said. That's a great
Yes.
answer. Awesome. Thank you so much. Anybody else have an answer about customer, like a buyer persona, or how are you trying to figure out your customers? Josh, you're shaking your head. Do you like to take that answer?
Sure. I mean, the first thing is to actually figure out who your ideal client is. And I guess sometimes that can be from who actually is using your product, if you know that. When you're first starting, let's say a new business, you're going to have to kind of figure that out. But actually finding out who you want to work with is probably the most important thing. Actually starting going from there, then you want to say, you kind of want to put yourself in their shoes of who they are. A lot of times, and not always, but a lot of times they'll be someone like you, possibly. So understanding, I mean, obviously where they go, like to a concert is a great thing if you're doing something that pinpointed. But if you have got a clientele or your product is something for 60 plus, they are probably not going to be on TikTok, is the most likely thing. They may be on Pinterest or Instagram, something like that. But understanding who that clientele is very important, because if you have a women's product, let's just say, Instagram is a huge thing right now for that, and for little videos, and for um, just showing off your product, how it makes your hair look great or something like that. If it's going after 15-year-olds or 18-year-olds, the TikTok area is where you want to go. So understanding who your person is that's going to buy your product, and then possibly looking at what the different social media platforms are, and kind of where they fit within that is very important. If you're something more business oriented, it might be a LinkedIn or even a Lineable, possibly. So getting to your actual clientele is super important, but then you have to know who they are to do that. But those are just a few of the little social media kind of understanding the clientele of those social media platforms.
Awesome. Great examples of how the different platforms have different demographics. So we want to know who our customer is so we can make sure we're getting on the right platforms to even get in front of them, or even to know that we are high-end luxury and we need to get to the people that are at the PGA golf events, because that's who has that high-end luxury taste. So great ways here. I'm going to share something in the chat. There's a link there. That's a buyer persona that I like to use. It's just a fictitious one. You fill it out. You're trying to define your own buyer. Who is your ideal customer? That way you can put it into a document. That's just one to use. And the reason I like to use that is because then I can share it with other people. If you fill that out and you were to hire a marketer like one of us, and you show us that and you say, when we go, who is your ideal customer? Who am I going to be marketing to? And you go, oh, well, here it is. Boom. It just makes it so much easier for everyone. And then you're going to get your money's worth, because we're actually trying to market to the exact person that your business needs. So, all right. There was another question here from Sue was next. Where does a small business start when looking to begin to actively start to generate leads online? Where do we start to look? Like newer business, or even an older business that maybe just got online? I mean, there's still people doing that. Where would be the first place we should begin to actively start generating leads online?
Well, I could give my story of mine. I kind of have a different audience with the environmental organizations. But where I started is where I used to work as a professional in the field as an ecologist. So I went where I had remembered them hanging out, and that would be in the open source social networks like Mastodon, Lemmy. There's another one called Bonfire where they're working on something called a Gaia project. But you go to these areas and you can find at least the professionals. But then my group also has activists, such as ones that are members of boards of watershed associations, and enthusiast citizens who are interested. So you have different areas where they hang out. The enthusiasts are sometimes on Facebook. A lot of them hang out on Pinterest. The activists, a little bit of them are on Mastodon. They found some of the professionals, but they're also on, a lot of times on Pinterest, and a little bit of spillover on Facebook, but not quite as much. And so you have to really go to where they're hanging out, or find out what they're using.
Absolutely. That's correct. Kind of what we've been talking about anyway, really by defining them, and then where to go start. You're starting where they're hanging out. What do you have, Jim? Where should somebody start when they first start looking for customers?
Well, I think the first thing you need to do is to say, is your business local, or is it regional, or is it national? Because those will be different types of things that you would do. Uh, if you're hyper local and you identify your ideal customer, which I will say, Tom, if there's one piece of business advice I would give to anyone, that is probably the hands down most important thing you can do. You've got to know who your market is. I talk to business all the time, and they'll say, say, who's your market? And when I hear, well, it's anybody, and I go, no, it's not. Even if your product is broad, if you will sort of segment it out, it makes your marketing more efficient because like let's say you're a financial planner. Okay, you've got a market of young people that have just maybe got married. They're trying to get their financial house started. Then you've got people who are having children, and that's a different financial point in your life. People who are then older, pre-retirement, that's another segment, and then people who are retired, that's a wholly different segment. So you market to each of those subgroups differently. So it helps to even if you just can't say everyone. It makes it more efficient if you know who you're marketing to, even if it's overall financial planning, but there are segments inside that you need to be aware of and how you do that. So if you're say a local person doing that, I would be looking for local networking groups to get started, Chamber of Commerce, any place that brings business people together is certainly a place to start and get your name started out there. But then you also need to have I'm not a webhead that does websites. I don't do websites. I depend on these professionals that are on the call with me to answer my questions about that and do it. You have to have a great website. You have to. It's you can't make it today without it. So that would be the first thing I would say. Make sure your website is converting. It's well done. It speaks to the customer persona. Develop your website to talk to your customer, not to talk to yourself, would be my final answer.
Touch on their points. What is the value to them? No, I think that's great, and what what you're saying. Josh, where would you start?
So yeah, mine's primarily local, and I'll just go from that local side too. A lot of Chamber, actually, as Chamber of Commerce, I've got a ton of clients from there. Though that's not totally online, but the interesting thing about that, let's say you have a website, a lot of times the Chamber will allow you to put your link on it, or they'll have a business directory, and that link that you get from them is actually quite helpful for boosting your site. It's great for SEO. It's very pinpointed to businesses. It's very pinpointed to your area, your county, or your city. So that can actually help. I saw an increase in where my site sat just from getting it on there, and among other things. One of the other things for local, especially for local, that's huge is get yourself a Google Business Profile. With the Google Business Profile, that is the only way you're going to be on the Google Maps. If you see other client, you look for plumbers, let's just say you're a plumber, you look for plumbers in Flagstaff. If you don't have that free Google Business Profile, you're not going to be in the maps. So that's a huge thing. When I build websites, I normally, especially for local type, I set them up a Google Business Profile too. It only takes a few minutes. There's ways to optimize it and stuff, but at least just having it there and then getting those reviews on your Google Business Profile is huge. I normally tell people just get Google Business Profile or reviews more than anything else. I mean, some are great, like Yelp sometimes can be good. TripAdvisor, depending on if you're a company like that. But starting out, especially if you're just starting, that Google Business Profile and you're local, super huge. Getting kind of look at the other companies there, see how many reviews they have, try to get close to those, the ones at the top. If they have 20 reviews, getting 10 reviews would be great. I've seen some that industries have hundreds of reviews. Trying to at least get like 50 or something as quickly as possible is going to put you up there. So I think that is a huge place to go.
Yeah, thank you. And that's exactly what I was going to say. That when like I said, I work with roofing contractors. They're all local. They're definitely a local based business. And the first thing I do, because I want to build quick wins for my customers, the first thing I do is I if they haven't claimed it, I claim their Google Business Profile. And if they have, I get access to it. You can grant someone access. You shouldn't give them your name and password. You can grant them access. And then I got access to it. And the first thing I do is I start posting photos every day. I start posting to it just like I would to any social media channel, because that activity will help move your Google page. Even if reviews also, that's a big factor, but not the only factor. So when you have a Google business page, you want to make sure that you're also posting photos, and you can post photos every day. Okay, they need to be towards that. You need to make sure that you're putting posting in their updates. They have updates and they have posts. They have two different types of things that you can do. So you want to make sure you're doing that. And what that will do is show that you're active versus someone else. And here's a little tip that a lot of people don't do, is get your customers, if they have a question, have them ask the question on your Google business profile. Right? Because when you have question and answers, that's another factor of the algorithm that Google says, hey, this profile is more active. So I want to put it up there, right? So you're gonna put it up there, and you're gonna answer those questions, and Google's gonna raise you higher, even if somebody else has more reviews. If you're more active, you're gonna get up there. You need reviews too. That's a huge part of it. But I definitely like that.
Sir.
Let us see here. Well, photos every day. You don't have to take the photos every day. You take one day. Social media should. Yeah, I post every day, but I'm not on there posting every day.
What?
Right? Because I automate it. I go in one day. In fact, this morning was a day, and I just scheduled all of March. I don't have to look at it until the end of March when I'm going to do April. Right? I get it all done in one day. Yeah, for a half a day, it takes a little bit, but you get it all done, and it's automated and scheduled, and that's how you do that. You don't want to get on there every day and pull your hair out. Nobody wants that. Let us continue to move on. That was a great topic. Where do you start? There's a lot of ways, a lot of places to start. So we want to explore those for sure. We had another question in the chat. Planning to launch a magazine for older adults, looking to generate leads, as in like subscribers, advertisers, and sponsors. Which social media platform would you recommend? I hear that Facebook may be the first choice. Well, based on that, launching a magazine for older adults, what social channel would be a great place to start? Who'd like to take that one on? Jim?
I don't do social media channels, so I was going, no, I don't know
Oh,
anything
okay.
about it. But
All
I
right.
was going to ask, is this a digital magazine or an actual print magazine?
That's a good question.
Both.
Sure. Launch a
Print
magazine.
and digital.
Okay, both print and digital. Okay. So
Yeah, I think you're on the right track with Facebook. And if it's more women centric, probably Pinterest too. If you have a lot of photos.
Okay. So Facebook, Pinterest. Pinterest is great for photos, and it's definitely a women, female dominated platform. Absolutely.
Sure, you could use whatever you could usually put that. No, put the stuff that's on the stove now with the shrimp in it in the.
Sounds like a great dinner. We'll keep talking about leads.
I'm hungry. Let's go.
Yeah, Josh, what would you recommend for a magazine to find subscribers and sponsors and so on, Josh?
So I had one that was, I wouldn't call it a magazine, but it was a blog. And it was more of a survival type blog type thing. And the thing I got the most like traffic from was actually posting blog posts and then putting them on. There were different kind of like survival companies or survival blogs, and they would take other people's blog posts. I think that was a huge thing. So it was kind of like a guest posting. They actually didn't even require you to, some of them didn't even require you to write the blog post on their site. You had it on your own, and then they would link to it. just because they were good articles. So sometimes writing a good article on your own site. I have another one, actually, a site I've done for a it's called the Tucson Dog. They're a magazine. They put all their stuff online. They actually put the magazine online. It is a free one that they give out. But they go to a lot of different local like shelters and stuff like that to get readership and viewership, and they'll give out free magazines different places like that. So that's one I've actually worked on. As far as, yeah, social media for that, I think your older clientele is obviously going to be on Facebook at this point. I mean, some people have, depending on what you're doing, can find stuff on Twitter sometimes, or X, I guess it's called now. But Facebook is, I would say, the gold standard for that. If it's more business oriented, that could be a LinkedIn one also, I would say.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. So I would say, you know, there's a reason that Facebook is called the platform for the, you know, for older people. I say that as a, you know, 50 years old, that's probably where I would be the most, where my family is, my friends are. So depending, you know, what age. I saw that Sue, one of our fellow web heads is here supporting us, shared a nice link in their social media platform stats. What a great place to start, looking at the actual data, right? Finding out where, and that's where it wraps right back into that customer buyer persona, right? If we have a buyer persona, which it sounds like you might already have with the magazine, you already know who your target is. Now you look at the data and find out where they're at, and that's where you can really start targeting them and getting down to it. So let me see here. So we have another question here. What if you serve clients virtually and don't have a physical address for clients to go to in order to use Google Business? What a great question. This gets asked a lot. I get this question a lot. Who knows? Josh, you deal with this.
There's a couple ways to get around that. They have ones where you don't even have to put your address in. You can use like local area things. I can't remember what it's called. It's called like a local area that you service, basically. And you can use that. I've actually had one where I technically did it out of my house, but I had a P.O. box, and the P.O. box at the they don't allow P.O. boxes, but the post office here allows an actual address with a suite number for your P.O. box. And I was able to get my Google business profile for this company that was essentially a virtual company selling a product online, and was able to use that address that was technically a P.O. box, but they had a real address. So that can be a way around that. And then also that the local area, if you're like servicing, that'll be a lot of like, if you work from your house as like a, let's say your company is a heating and cooling company and you're out of your house, and you don't want that on there, you can do a local service area.
Great advice. Excellent advice. I would add to it because I deal with this a lot. There are a lot of steps you can take before you try to claim your Google business profile, like connecting, like having your website, connecting it to making sure it has all your correct information, connect it to Google Search Console, connect it to Google Analytics, claim your business on other directories that aren't as stringent. And once you do all that, that will also help you to get your Google business profile. The other way, like Josh said, is just to choose an area. You can say people don't come to my area. They have that check box that you can select. And the way that I have been dealing with it a lot lately with roofing companies is we will get and rent a virtual office. The ones that we've been finding for $50 a month. You got a physical address, suite A, whatever it is, in your target area, And really, that's the best way to do it. It does cost, but they're in all your major cities and even a lot of your smaller cities. You just look up virtual office in your city. You could probably do virtual office in your zip code would probably be how I would start. That's how I find them. And they're typically there's a couple companies, big ones, national companies. There's some smaller ones, but you can get them for pretty inexpensive, and that is a great way to do that, to get that Google business profile. They sure have the corner, the market share of local searches with the Google business profile. So it's almost mandatory that you have one. If you're serving anybody in any kind of local arena, then local area, you definitely need a Google business profile. All right. Let us see here. What other questions do we have? Anybody have more questions? I'm trying to get through the chat. You guys are very active. Thank you for all the great chat ones. Here we go. Brian asked, when you were referring to automating your posts on Google, is that a certain software, Google specific option? Explain that a little bit more and how it works. Well, I'm going to pass this one over to Josh. He's our resident automation expert. So we'll let him talk about some automations and maybe some different ways that you can automate that.
Yeah, one of the ones I use, and there's a bunch of them out there. The one I use is called Social Bee, and it allows you to post to essentially all your different accounts. You can post a Google business profile, you can post to Pinterest, Instagram, but there's a bunch of them out there. But the one I've used is Social Bee. There's also a lot of times automations. Let's say you write a blog post on let's say you have a WordPress site or maybe even one of the others. There are different plugins and stuff to be able to automatically post straight over to your social media accounts. Some of these also use what's called RSS feeds on your social media, or RSS feeds from your website to social media. Those are probably the main ways I've done it. There's a bunch of different ones. You can do a lot of social media automation, just checking for it. There's ways to do it through Zapier. I've done it where it pulls different things through from what's called Zapier. It's an automation platform, and you'll pull it from, let's say, your website information or a blog post or something, and then post it to Instagram, Facebook, those that way. In the Social Bee, another thing in there is you can actually use, it's called Pocket, I think it's called, and it allows you to pull links. So maybe some of your times you just post a link to something interesting. It'll allow you to easily pull it from the internet, the link, and then it goes straight to your Social Bee account, and it'll allow you to post that really easily. So there's a lot of different things you can post to. And for posting, you might, and I don't say I'm 100% good at it either, but you might actually have different things. Maybe one's a quote for this day. Maybe you do Monday quotes or something like that from people in your industry, something like that. So setting it up so it's relatively simple still to do. Maybe it's a picture of something in your industry or a small, like, go get them type thing. For different days, that can be helpful. This thing that I have allows you to put them in different categories and then automatically post them on the correct days. So there's a lot of different things you can do. Oh yeah, and Chantel, AI, most of these things have AI stuff written into them too now. Social Bee does, a lot of them do, to help you write the posts, and a lot of times they'll even add in like little emojis and stuff. So.
Awesome. Great answer. I use software. It's a whole CRM. A lot of CRMs will have a scheduling tool in it that work into all the different social channels. And you'll find that when there's a software that is posting to a social channel, it'll typically post a Google business profile as well. So I like to treat Google Business Profile as a social channel when I am posting. If I'm posting something to Facebook, I post it to Google Business Profile. So that's definitely for that. The AI, there's a lot of AI. ChatGPT can be interesting. You have to go through a lot of iterations or versions to come to a great conclusion. It's great for brainstorming though. If you, especially when you're working on your own and you need some brainstorming help, ChatGPT is a great way for that. Let's see here. What other questions do we have? I saw somebody was talking about Google Ads. It wasn't necessarily a question though, but that definitely came up.
It was me, Tom. Sorry. Sorry, it's a little crazy in the background, but yeah, I used to use Google Ads. It can get very expensive though. I tried and I even spoke to various people and they said, oh, we have this special service we can run for you and it'll be this amount for this time and then you can stop it whenever you want. And I was like, oh, wow, that's great because I have just such a finite small amount of money right now that I can put towards my marketing. So I signed on. And then not even 2 days later, it was like 10 times the amount that they were trying to bill me. So of course I had to stop right away. I was like, thanks for, and I was quite put out by it. I mean, I still have it as a free. I find it very useful to go in and look at some of the data, especially some of the things that Josh and Jim were kind of talking about. I thought, yeah, I think I can see some of those tracking, and the Google Analytics is sort of built into Google Ads now. There's a lot of things you can get from it. But I used to build my own websites like through WordPress and whatnot, but I've switched into a new industry and I don't have time. So I picked a drag and drop and I'm thinking of switching over because Wix has a bunch of AI and it's been very interesting. It's supposed to align with Google Ads and do all of this special AI stuff in the background. And I just wondered what your take, marketing gurus.
On AI and Google Ads, is that your question?
No, for drag and drop, like Wix, like if you have to just, because yes, can I build websites? Yes. Do I have the time? No, I don't. And so I'm just picking one of these. Wix seems to be calling to me. It's a little bit more expensive than the GoDaddy drag and drop. There's all sorts of other ones. I've done tons of price comparisons. I kind of know the ins and outs because I used to build websites for other people too, especially when they were paying me for the drag and drop. I'm like, really? You can do this yourself? Okay. But I just sort of want to know if there's one or two that you would recommend saying like, this actually really helps with some of the stuff you've been offering right now.
Sure. That was a great question, and I'm sure that you will see a common thread once we start talking about this here. Robert, let's start with you. We haven't heard from you in a little bit. What do you recommend for building a website, and why would you recommend it?
I would recommend WordPress,
Okay.
of course, and that's what I use for my websites. And the advantage with WordPress over Wix, you're talking about Wix, is WordPress, you still own your site. So if the company goes out, such as Wix, you basically lose all your data. With WordPress, it's open source and you own the site. Of course, you have to have a host, but even without the host, if you save the site, you still have it. And that's an advantage of WordPress. And the other of the big three, the Joomla and Drupal, also have the same situation of being open source.
Yes, there are a couple of them other than WordPress, and those are very robust. I probably wouldn't recommend the Drupal and Joomla for a casual person because they're very, very hard learning curves. Once you get it, they're very robust and powerful. I really like Drupal, but WordPress just really took off as the #1 platform. And one of the reasons is because it got a little bit easier learning curve, and exactly what Robert was talking about being yours. You have a backup on your own computer or in the cloud if you do it, and then you can move it to any type of host.
Yes.
SiteGround, WordPress engine. I don't recommend GoDaddy, but that's my opinion. Josh, what do you recommend?
So, I mean, obviously I'm on WordPress. I think most web designers, I'm not saying all of them are. Another one I have used, it's not 100% my first choice because I'm still going to use WordPress with WooCommerce. But if you're selling a product, Shopify does a great job. I actually think they do a great job. They allow for a lot of coding, a lot of back end stuff. They have tons of third party kind of apps or whatever they call it, where that's one of the problem with a lot of them, that they only allow for their own type of apps or like plugins, whatever they want to call them. Like WordPress, you might have 5 ways to do something by 5 different people who made them. So if one doesn't work, you go to the next one, or it doesn't have all the features, you try the next one, or you put 2 together. Sometimes even might not be the best optimal way to do it, but it can work sometimes. I'm not 100% sure on Wix, but I think they have their like optional things or apps. I think they're all within their own thing. I don't think there's third party, but I could be wrong with that. But Shopify actually does have a lot of third parties that make cool apps. So it's the one I'd always put out there, though it is more for selling a product only. As far as, yeah, there's a lot more with WordPress, a lot more SEO type plugins too, to allow you to get your site, ranking better. So that's another reason. I mean, Rank Math is a great SEO plugin for WordPress, and then you have Yoast, you have all-in-one SEO. So there's a lot of different ones that can do a lot of different things. And that's why I would recommend that thing. I would very much say steer clear of GoDaddy's drag and drop builder. Wix is probably quite a bit better than that even. I think that's probably my main thing. And then Robert saying, you basically own your site. The other one's more like renting. And if they don't like it, they take it down. You have to build a whole new site. So.
Awesome. Jim, I know you'd mentioned, and I know you, so I know you don't build websites, but did you have a recommendation? Would you like to?
I have nothing.
All right, no problem. I just wanted to give you that opportunity.
Websites, I depend on you. No, I have nothing to add about websites.
Well, we'll keep going, but I'll end with this this WordPress recommendation. WordPress runs over 40% of all websites for a reason. It has the largest foothold for a reason. And that's because it's the top one. So it's just universally the nice thing about it. Let's say you hire Josh and he does a great job, but then you want someone else to work on it. Well, you're going to find other WordPress people that can work on it from all over, probably one in your neighborhood. I don't know how good that person might be, but still you want to definitely, WordPress is what we all would recommend. Robert, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I was going to add, we were talking about the other two, Joomla and Drupal. I was going to say, in the future, keep your eye on Drupal because they now have the Gutenberg editor from WordPress. Apparently, some of the WordPress developers are now over on the Drupal side, and it's getting a little easier. So if you actually have a robust site and have a lot of databases you have to work with, in the future, don't discount it.
And it is they're viable platforms for sure, no doubt. Let's see here. So there was a question about WordPress.com versus WordPress.org. I see you shaking your head, Josh. Can you tell us the difference?
So WordPress.com, technically it would still be like a .com and .org. WordPress.com and how it's understood is more like a Wix, essentially. You have certain plugins that they allow for and stuff, but not all of them. You can do some things with it. It's more like they host everything. So if you're gonna go with a WordPress anyway, don't go with WordPress.com because there's so much more flexibility with the WordPress.org. Yes, you have to get a separate host, which actually there are many hosts that have specific WordPress hosting that sets it all up for you. You have a WordPress site right there, makes it quite easy. As far as drag and drop builders, there's plenty of drag and drop builders for WordPress. I use Divi. A lot of other people use Elementor. There's Brizzy. So if you don't like one, there's a bunch of them. Yeah, Brizzy is one of them. Some people use the Gutenberg editor, which I don't find robust enough and I don't like as much, but there are other ones in it. Like Divi it's a theme. You pop in the theme and you got the builder right there. So you're good to go.
Awesome. Great explanation of the .com versus the .org of the WordPress. A lot of people get that in there. And I'm an Elementor user. That's the one I like. Divi's another one. I've used that, but I pretty much build every website I do with WordPress and Elementor combined. Every website I do. All right. What other questions? You guys have been great. What a great audience you guys have been. Awesome questions. Thank you so much for bringing those out. What other questions do we have? What can we answer for you? Yeah, I'm going to circle back a little bit. We were kind of talking about Google Ads for a minute, and I want to chime in on this because I am a certified Google partner, and running ads is a very tricky thing. It seems very, very easy. You go in there and you put in some keywords and stuff, but it's a lot more to it than that. And really, if you're going to run Google Ads, and this goes right back to the start, the second thing you need to do, because the first is you're figuring out who your buyer is, who is your customer, right? Your buyer persona. The second thing that you want to do is then you want to figure out who is your competition. And you want to spy on them. Okay, because this is a legal activity. You can spy on your competition. I know it sounds like, oh, I don't know if I should spy on them, but yeah, you spy them. There's tools. I use SEMrush, great tool. I highly recommend it. You can go in and you can see what keywords they're using when they're running ads. You can see what their ads are actually looking like. So you can do this with a lot of your competition. You find out 3, 4, 5 companies that you're in competition with. It'll be a friendly competition. It doesn't have to be bad. Then you know and you figure out what they're doing. What are their landing pages? One of the biggest things I see when people run Google Ads is they will just run Google Ads to the homepage of their website. And you're going to probably throw money at Google and not get a lot of return off of that, because when we run ads, we run them for specific things. Okay, I'm going to use a roofing contractor again because that's who I work with. A lot of times we'll do a spring special. That's what we're starting to ramp up for a few of my customers right now. And we'll do a coupon, $500 off an asphalt roof, new asphalt roof, right? When the person clicks on that ad, they're thinking, I'm going to get $500 off an asphalt roof, and it goes to their homepage. What's that person going to do? Bloop, they're going to bounce. That's not what they clicked on. But if you have a landing page specific for that, and when they click on it and it says $500 off a brand new roof, I know I'm in the right spot because that's what I clicked on, right? So that's probably the biggest thing that I see people getting wrong with Google Ads. You got to have a very targeted spot that you're sending that traffic to. That's super important. And with that, let me see here. Did we have another question? I think I saw another question. Oh, we answered that. SEMrush, that is correct spelling. Thank you, Josh. Paul, what does someone have to do to leave you a Google review? Like if they don't have a Google account? And Sue answered that right in there. One of our web heads supporting us there. Great. That was a good answer. Jim.
I was just going to chime in on getting back to how to get leads. One thing that I work with clients on is, especially if you're a smaller company, if you are competing against a bigger company, or you're running a small business and you're a complementary business to a larger company. I read somewhere where Lowe's last year spent $140 million on marketing. And let's say you are a smaller neighborhood hardware store, or you are a house painter, or you are something like that, then they're spending money to draw the same customer you want to have. So one easy way to take advantage of their ad spend and turn it into yours is to geofence locations that are drawing your customers. That way you are connecting, you're letting the big company do the big lift and spend the money. And for 10 cents on the dollar, you're taking advantage of that and putting your marketing in front of the people they're drawing. So that's an awful easy way to look for technology as a way to level the playing field between a small business and a large company. And so that's one technique. If someone else is drawing the leads you want to have, then take advantage of that and start putting your ads in front of the people they're drawing. So that's a one way David slays Goliath.
Awesome.
So,
Thank you for that. That's definitely some great information. The web heads, because we're getting close here, we want to keep answering stuff, but we are all, Josh, Robert, Jim, we're all going to put our information into the chat. We all offer a free consultation, 30-minute consultation. So, or 1 hour, whatever it happens to be. And so we're going to put our information there. So if you'd like to get a hold of one of us, free consultation, we just help maybe answer a few more questions you have, or whatever you need. And let's see, I did see another question there. From Patrick, what are you using for lead call tracking recording? Lead call tracking and recording. Who wants to tackle that one? Well, I'll do it. I have an answer for that. So I'm using my CRM, which has you can get tracking numbers in it. My CRM is Roofing OP. It's one that I use with all my customers, and it has recording right in it. It works really well. Another one you can use is CallRail. CallRail is a great one. It can get a little pricey, but CallRail really they'll give you all these things I'm talking about are just marketing numbers. So what you do is you acquire a new number, and this is your marketing number. You don't think of this as, oh, I'm not giving up my cell number. No, this is going to forward to your cell number, right? So now you've got this new number that you put on your marketing material. Maybe you put one on your Google ads so you can track which calls are coming from your Google ads. You put one on your website so you can track which calls are coming from your website. Maybe on your landing pages might have a different number for each campaign. So that way you can really track where your calls are coming from by using one of these. Now you might have to have multiple numbers, but really if you have that kind of a campaign where you're getting that much traffic, well, then a multiple number really works well. I do that with quite a few of my customers, where we have multiple numbers to be able to track which services that we're providing for them are working and which ones are not. So it's a really great way, and it's hard to not have the right data when you have different numbers for each campaign or type of lead that you're generating. It really shows the data really well. Anybody else have another way to track their calls? That's really, that's one of the best ways to do it for sure. CallRail is probably the most popular. Let's see. Is there any other questions?
going once, going twice.
That's
I
right.
have a question about domains.
Yeah.
So let me tell you my situation. I have a domain through Google Workspace. That's what I started with because I had just started a therapy practice, and then I went through GoDaddy to do my website. So do I have to keep Google Workspace domain if I have GoDaddy on that same domain? I'm so confused.
Well, you're going to, I would guess GoDaddy's the hosting, and the Google Workspace, how you have it is the domain registration. So, because there, that I know of, it can't be registered in two places. You have to transfer it.
Right. And that's what I was trying to find out. Is it going to mess anything up if I do transfer it to GoDaddy instead of having it on Google Workspace?
It shouldn't. You have to do what's called a transfer code. That you do like a transfer thing, and then there's a code that gives stuff. You can usually keep it exactly where you have it, and then what you do is you change the DNS, the name servers, DNS records on there. Pretty simple. If you have it there, the GoDaddy will give you, it'll say ns dot blah 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 blah.
Okay.
And you just put that on there, and then it'll start showing basically your URL is your address of where everything is. Your hosting is where all your files are kept. The website is just a bunch of files essentially.
Okay.
So the domain just points to those files. So you can have the files essentially wherever you want. You can have them at GoDaddy, you could have them at Green Geeks, you can have an A2 hosting, and then just change the name server on your domain.
Now,
Okay.
I do have a question. Do you have email set up like your name at your domain?
I do.
Okay, so that will mess that up if you change
Okay.
it,
Okay.
and not mess it up. It'll only mess it up if you don't make the change when you make the change for your email as well. And a lot of people miss that, and that would be like your MX records and your A records. So you want to make sure that so if you do have that, you want to make sure that when you transfer it over to whatever, when you move your domain name, you
Mhm.
also have to re-enter your email specs, whatever the MX records and whatnot are.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Okay.
So what I'd recommend is just leaving it right where it's at. If it's working, if your website and your domain name are working,
Yeah.
I would leave it as is. I wouldn't
Okay.
switch it. I would leave it right there. That's what I recommend to all my customers. Once they get it somewhere and they have email, I say, no, we don't want any, not that it's that hard, but it's just much easier just to leave it there, especially when
Okay.
it's working, because then you can always change hosts. You can go, you don't
Okay.
like GoDaddy anymore, which I don't, but that's my personal opinion. You can go
Yeah.
to SiteGround. A2 is my favorite. That's where I have my account. Josh, I think you're there at A2 as well, right? They have
Okay.
great plans, fast. That's my recommendation, A2. But there's a lot of great ones out there. WP Engine is probably one of the best ones. So there's lots of
Okay.
great options out there. But I would just leave it right where you have it. I wouldn't move it.
And I had one more question about SEO and the keywords for like when you're doing a post to say I'm doing a blog and I'm trying to post it on social media. GoDaddy offers the opportunity for you to use SEO keywords in there. So you look through it to see what the SEO keywords are and they're like placing it throughout. Is that something that you feel would be helpful, or is it just do it yourself and be done with it?
I think this is a great question for Robert.
So you want to take your keywords from your blog post and put it onto your social media.
It's saying that you have the opportunity to use their SEO keyword thing where you can put it in their blog title and all that. They ask you the words you want to use, and then they place it wherever they want you to put it in your blog. I don't really understand it. It makes no sense to me.
Oh, so you're talking about an automatic keyword type thing? Because usually I do a lot of writing of blog posts, but I come up with a keyword and then I'm placing it myself around the post. And
See,
you
I
want to
don't
make sure you have it in
understand
your
that.
headings.
Yeah, I don't understand the whole keyword thing. I'm still trying to learn all that, but
Yeah,
it
the keyword is,
automatically.
you have to think of how people will search for your post. You know,
Mhm,
what they will be using. And a lot of times it might not be what you think it is.
mhm.
And something I've been doing kind of recently is a lot of local type things that, I write about butterfly gardens and butterflies and plants.
Mhm.
And if I'm talking about a specific place and what you can grow in a garden in that place, the
Mhm.
key word would be the name of the county or the city that I'm talking about that you can grow that garden in.
Okay.
Because people will look at what can I grow in XYZ place. So that would be your keyword rather than the actual plant or butterfly that you're highlighting.
So if I did a blog, say for codependency, and that was the keyword I wanted to use was codependency.
Hmm.
All right. So let's say the blog title is codependency, how to break free.
Hmm.
With that, so that's the keyword that people would look for is codependency.
Yeah, that would probably be the keyword, but that would be a tough one to really rank for because there's probably a lot of
Mhm.
information out there using codependency.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true. Well, even though this is a great discussion, I'm gonna cut us off there. I would recommend booking a one-to-one with Robert or myself or any of us up here. We did share our information into the chat, so feel free to get a hold of any one of us or all of us and take us up on our free consultation.
Yeah, I could help you with the
And
keyword.
with that, I just want to say thank you guys so much for coming out and for all the great questions. The interaction was amazing. You guys were awesome. And from the web heads and everybody here, I'm sure, just thank you so much for coming out. And we do have these meetings often. Watch on a line. Well, we have them all the time. These are the panel discussion, a little more interactive. We also have talks and we have different networking events. So we would love to see you guys at any of those and in the future. And thank you so much for coming out today. Have a great week.
Take care.
Thanks.
Great job, guys.
Good
Yeah.
job, Tom, hosting.
Yeah, you done good, as we say here.
Yeah.
Well, I host a lot of events. I host 3 meetings a week, every week, and then some on top of that. Not these exact, but still hosting is hosting.
You're a star, Tom. You're a star.
Sometimes I get tired of it, but you guys did a great job. Thanks so much. And I got
Thanks.
actually a meeting to head to right now for
Oh.
Toastmasters. That's another one group that I do a lot.
Okay. Take care, everyone.
Here. See you Friday.